We're going to start to look at hip openers and lunges now. So starting in Anjaneyasana, so John's going to bring his left knee towards the ground. You can just keep your hands out of it for right now. So what we want to look at when we're going into Anjaneyasana is he is not in a hip hinged forward posture. If he were, he would bring his rib cage towards his thigh. That's going to put him in a hip hinge. Take the roll out of your shoulders a little bit, John. So, yeah, exactly. And then just keep hinging forward. So yes, exactly. So this is going to be using more of his abdominal muscles. This is not Anjaneyasana. That's why I'm showing you this. This is a hip hinge as opposed to shoulders over the back hip. If he brings his shoulders over his back hips, now he's in a little bit of back extension. And then if he shifts his hips down and forward, then he's going to come even more into a backward bend just by virtue of where his hips are in space. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of things. First being the front knee. So there's a lot of yoga teacher trainers that will say if the knee goes forward of the foot or forward of the toes, that this is going to be somehow injurious to the knee. I will say this multiple times, probably through training. You do this every time you walk up and down stairs. Your knee goes past your toes. Every single time you step onto a curb, your knee is going to go past your toes. It is not going to cause any major harm to you, lest you are slamming down on your kneecaps or doing something else that's entirely ill-advised. So I don't worry so much about this knee going front forward of the toes. If he has the flexibility in the back hip flexor, this hip flexor, to come so that the knees go forward of the toes, that is fine. As long as he can feel grounded down through his front heel, that's the part that we're going to be concerned with. Taking the arms up over the head is only going to serve to intensify the back bend here. So if he takes his arms up over the head, once again, it's lifting the shoulder girdle through that scapulohumeral rhythm. It is also inadvertently, or because they're connected, lifting the rib cage away from the hips. And because his hands are back in line with his ears, he is lifting the rib cage up and forward. What the cues that I really like in Anjaneyasana, you okay? Okay. The cues that I really like in Anjaneyasana are to think about lengthening the back body rather than lengthening the front body. So the front body is going to lengthen because of where you are in space, because you're trying to keep the shoulders back over the hips. I like to say, don't compromise the length of the back body in order to get more length in the front of the body. So you want to keep the back of the body long, keep the front of the body long, think more about going up, less about going back, and then let the hips do the work for you. So if the hips glide in, you're going to get more and more and more and more and more into this back bend. Really nice. Now, can you still breathe? Can you look up towards the ceiling with your eyes and your chin? Good. You're reaching towards the ceiling. Take a big breath in and then come out. I want to look at this from the front, so I'm going to have him do the same thing. I also just want to note one more thing about the back ankle. So we just looked at John's dorsiflexion. He just has more limited ankle mobility, which is just the way that his bones are structured. So if I asked him to put his back toes down, his back toenails down on the ground, there's going to be a little bit of a gap here underneath of his back foot. We might look at this in upward facing dog with him just a little bit too, so that you can see what the plantar flexion looks like. But for a lot of women, they'll be able to even get the shin down onto the ground, whereas for a lot of men, that's not going to be possible. So face forward, same foot forward is fine, unless you want to switch it out. Doesn't really matter to me. Okay, so the intelligence of the posture is in the strengthening of the hip girdle while the spine is in extension. I really like this posture a lot because it allows people to get into the flexibility of the spine with very little collateral. So he's not going to go very far if he loses his balance, which is really nice as opposed to something like an Chandrasana, so a crescent lunge pose. If you're going up and back in that crescent lunge pose, people will get out of the front knee. They'll compromise the balance between both sides of the body. There's a lot that can happen. The stakes are much, much higher going into a back bend in a crescent lunge than in an Anjaneyasana. Looking at the positioning of both of his femur bones, I personally would like to see his left knee just a little bit off more to the left so that he has a nice balanced solid structure. And then I'm just noticing little things that are very, very common that are going to come up with your students. So in the front foot, he needs to soften those toes just a little bit, allow the muscles of the legs and the hip to support the weight of his body. It looks really, really good. Now reach the arms up over your head. He naturally comes into this triangle with the arms. So he naturally puts his hands together. He's worked for, I can say with confidence, many years to get this level of mobility in his shoulders. For a lot of people, this is not going to be possible. So you can separate the arms. Just like when we talked about in Trikonasana, in Vrikshasana, in tree pose, keeping the arms open like this creates an open chain, which is going to be harder for people to get proprioceptive feedback from. That's a lot of words. You will understand them, I promise. By the time you get through this training, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If we close the chain by putting something like a block right here, it's going to help him understand better where his body is in space. It just gives you more points of contact, more points of mapping as far as where the arms are in space. Understanding where the arms are in space is going to give him a better understanding of where the rib cage is in space, where the hips are in space, where the feet are in space. It goes all the way down the chain and then all the way back up the chain as well. So a lot of these alignment tips can be very nitpicky. As long as they're done with good intention, I don't have a problem with them being nitpicky. The issue comes when you're asking people to do something that is inherently uncomfortable for them or something that they literally just aren't going to be able to do. But pushing people a little bit beyond their limits is absolutely encouraged, and giving them as many tools to do that is really the key, the name of the game. That's the name of the game. Give people as many tools as you can. That said, there are a couple ways that you could deepen this posture if you really wanted to. So you could take a block underneath of the front or back knee. You could bend the elbows so that the palms are coming behind the head. This is going to stretch right here, the arm line that connects to the rib cage. This is a really, really intense back bend for most people. It also can be really liberating for people. Let's go right into Ardha Hanumanasana since we're here. So Ardha Hanumanasana, half Hanuman's pose, or half splits is what they call it. We are going to explore in depth throughout this posture clinic the hamstrings. The hamstrings tend to be really, really tight for people. You can sit back hips to heels while we talk through this just a little bit. I do think that it is a bit ill-advised to, let me back up. When people hit a point that they can't stretch any farther, that is their body sending their nervous system a stop sign. I think that people believe that stretching should be painful. Or at least somewhat uncomfortable. Discomfort is fine, but if you hit a stopping point, you need to be able to articulate that for yourself and for your students and appreciate whatever that looks like, because it's not going to look the same in everybody's body. So I really am a fan of a couple of different stretching techniques, one called PNF, that's proprio-neuromuscular feedback. It's creating reciprocally inhibited muscle engagement while you're stretching the opposing muscle. So in this case, you would be engaging the hamstring while you're lengthening the hamstring. That is a very delicate way to get people kind of through those yield signs. You're never going to go past the stop sign. Please never encourage anybody to go past the stop sign. They will get hurt in some capacity. So you have to encourage people to listen to where their stop signs are. I want you to listen to where your stop signs are. And the lines can be really blurry. The farther we get into the training, the more you will recognize that there are energetic stops, there are psychological stops, there are physiological stops, there are physical stops, right? There's a lot of different yield signs and stop signs, and you have to know how to interpret each of yours. That's the whole point of this practice. Ardha Hanuman towards the front door there. So put your left foot forward, if you will, so you can just look at your left foot. So you're going to come through Anjaneyasana, then the front leg is going to straighten, and he's going to fold over that front leg. Now, this front leg does not have to be straight. I don't care if the front leg is straight or not. There's a couple of ways that you can use props here. The first prop would be his hands. So he just puts his hands down on the ground. That's going to give him another point of contact on the ground. It's going to bear a lot of his body weight so that it's not falling into the front thigh. Some people will encourage the knees. Let's see if I can get out of my own way here. Some people are going to encourage the hips to be lifted up and shift forward a bit. Yes, like this, okay? Another variation would be for the hips to be sit back just the way that he had them. Either one of those are fine with me. In my mind, the intelligence of this posture is in working on, obviously, the opening of the hips and the hamstrings, but it's also working on not only the mobility on the back of the thigh, but the mobility in the spine. So what I will often encourage people to do, because this is where I see people hitting limitations, is I don't care how straight the leg is. What I want you to do is bring your chest down towards your thigh. How does that feel?
It's a stretch on the...
Definitely still feeling a stretch on the hamstring is what he's giving me. So you can get to the stretch in the hamstring without straightening the leg. You can get to the stretch in the hamstring without compromising the integrity and the rhythm in between the hamstring and the back, just by folding forward a little bit more. The real intelligence of this posture is being able to breathe through it, to know how to support yourself, to know how to get in, to get out of the posture. A block right here underneath of this thigh, really, really nice. You could sit hips to heels and then kind of sit up a little bit more. If you were to put a block underneath of this butt, you even could have somebody loop a strap around. You're probably going to have to help them, but loop a strap around there and pull a little bit more into it as it's comfortable for each individual. Using the abdominal muscles here can help lengthen. This is like a reciprocal inhibition. So if he rounds forward, uses his abdominal muscles, he's going to get more stretch along the entire back line of the body. Make sure that people are breathing here. That's the most important part. Okay.